Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 145. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the show, has liked, shared, commented, given us guest suggestions as well. All your support allows us to continue to bring on expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guest today. Also want to take this time to thank our sponsors. Samson Equipment provides first-class weight rooms and has earned an exceptional reputation of providing the finest quality, design, and customer service. Being a direct manufacturer, the team at Samson brings full customization capabilities and not only branding, but in custom equipment needed to execute your next project. From racks, plates, barbells, benches, flooring storage, dumbbells, and much more, Samson equipment is durable and made to order from premium grade materials, all built from scratch, start to finish. Samson equipment provides professional weight room solutions for all your strength and conditioning needs. So see the Samson standard for yourself and learn more at samsonequipment.com. Also want to thank our sponsor, Cerberus Strength. Cerberus is an organization that puts the athlete first and actively works towards providing the best quality gear at an affordable price. Owned and operated by active lifters, Cerberus has quickly evolved into a global brand symbolizing quality and trust. Their ever-growing product range is used by the top athletes around the world at the highest level of competition, and every single Cerberus strength product has been designed with performance in mind with the highest attention to detail. So if you're in the market for the highest quality strongman and strength conditioning gear and equipment, be sure to check out CerberusStrength.com and use promo code STRENGTH_game to receive an extra 10% off your next order. Also want to thank our sponsor, Sport Kilt. The kilt is tradition dating back centuries. Worn by nobles, military, and fashionistas, the kilt has been through it all, at times banned and other times celebrated. For over 25 years, Sport Kilt has been striving to perfect their version of the Scottish classic to create the ultimate garment of fashion and function. Sport Kilt offers a wide range of universal and clan tartans, as well as custom sport kilts and an excellent selection of accessories and apparel to complement the kilt wearer. Check out the full line of kilts and join the kilt life at sportkilt.com and be sure to use promo code TSG to save on your next order. And in this week's episode, I am joined by Tommy LaBriola. Tommy is an on-site human performance specialist at O2X Human Performance Training Tactical Athletes. Prior to working with O2X Human Performance in late 2024, LaBriola spent 5 years as a minor league strength and conditioning coach with the Toronto Blue Jays. Most recently, he served as the head AAA strength coach and previously worked with the High A team in Vancouver, British Columbia from 2019 to 2023. Prior to his time in professional baseball, LaBriola completed a graduate assistant position at Salisbury University from 2017 to 2019. He got his start coaching in the private sector at Parisi Speed School in 2016 and soon after interned as a sports performance coach at his alma mater, Salisbury University, in 2017 before being promoted to graduate assistant. In addition, he has also held internship positions at the University of Pittsburgh in 2017, as well as Georgetown University in 2019. A former 4-year catcher at Salisbury University, LaBriola made the weight room a staple of his training throughout the season. As a member of the Seagull baseball team, LaBriola was the Conference Player of the Year in 2016 with a .413 batting average, hitting 4 home runs and 55 RBIs. He was a 3-time Capital Athletic Conference champion in 2014, 2016, and 2017, made 2 NCAA regionals in 2016 and 2017, as well as 2 NCAA Division III World Series in 2014 and 2015. He continues to train and is active himself, enjoying spending time outdoors, listening to music, and playing the drums when he is not in the weight room. Like I said, I'm excited to have him on the show today. So, with all that said, let's get in the game with Coach Tommy LaBriola. What's going on, everybody? Today we've got one of my old athletes from way back in the day. It more so dates me than him. Now turned strength coach, now turned into the tactical setting as well. So we got Coach Tommy Labriola on the show today. What's going on today, man?
What's up, Nick? Thanks for having me on. Um, I think it's pretty cool we're sitting here today. You were my first real strength coach when I was an athlete, when I got to college freshman year, first introduction to the weight room. So now that I'm turned meathead, I think it's pretty fun that we're sitting here today talking as two strength coaches.
No, it's really cool, and that's there's been some other guys like at Salisbury that have done the exact same thing, and it's crazy to think that that happened. Not to say that I'm any importance, but I just hope that whatever anybody remembers from their time as an athlete that now as a coach can just forgive me for whatever I did wrong. Because I don't remember how bad it could have been.
Oh man, I had a blast. I mean, I still think about those days in Powers and keep in touch with Matt Nine, of course. And those early days at Salisbury definitely molded me into where I have gone these days. So
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad to have you on the show today. So let's kind of dive into it, like how you got started before you even got to coaching. Like we talk about your athletic career and kind of how we first got to meet. How'd you really get started, like in the strength game, training, and then obviously baseball at Salisbury, and then kind of what you're currently doing today as well?
yeah, for sure. So I played baseball growing up, a couple other sports too, but really kind of zeroed in on baseball when I was in high school, and just loved the team atmosphere, the competitive atmosphere. Knew I wanted to go to college to play sports, and was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to play at Salisbury. And when I got there, the weight room was my happy place. I loved getting in there with my teammates, competing, training hard, and it was just a ton of fun. So that was a place I could go. And I got to say, like, some of the best coaches I've known over my time as an athlete has been my strength coaches. They're the ones that have influenced me the most. And my sport coaches meant the world to me as well. And so all of that kind of pushed me into that coaching realm. I was able to know early on I want to coach. But I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't know what strength conditioning was. I knew it was kind of a job that some people did, or like I knew it, some guys in grad school or interns. I knew it was kind of a thing, but I didn't know what it was. And then just over my career, I talked to other strength coaches I had. My sophomore year, I talked to my strength coach, Chris, about his career path. And eventually I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. I was bouncing back and forth between strength and conditioning and physical therapy, and eventually zeroed in on being a meathead, being a strength coach. And I went and did my first internship after my what was that, my junior year of college, and that was at the Parisi Speed School, small sector, small private sector, under a guy named Greg Harris, and that was my first exposure to coaching. And he really threw me into the fire. Worked with everybody under the sun, multiple different sports, multiple different age groups, was just a phenomenal experience to do right off the jump. And from there, I went to Matt Nine, the head strength coach at Salisbury, and was like, I want to be a strength coach and I want to be a graduate assistant here. What do I need to do? And he laid out all these things that I needed to do to get that job. Um, and so from there, I, continued playing sports and lifting and training my tail off, and landed a internship at the University of Pittsburgh, and went there for a summer after my senior year, and then moved into a graduate assistant role at Salisbury. So stayed there for a couple of years, was a strength coach in grad school, and trained the baseball team, and women's soccer, and rookie football was another sport I trained. Um, and then just kept rolling, and knew I wanted to get into baseball. did some other internships too. Went to Georgetown University, worked under Dave Terry as my grad school hours internship. Worked with a bunch of sports there too. And then got hired by the Blue Jays and spent 5 years as a minor league strength coach for the Blue Jays. And that took me all over the place. You know, a lot of the year in Florida, went out to Vancouver, British Columbia for a few years, worked with the high A team there. And then my last year with them, I was the head AAA strength coach out in Buffalo, New York. And that's when I made the jump into tactical and been with O2X Human Performance since about October, this past fall, October 2024, and been there ever since.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's quite a journey, and it's awesome to kind of see where it all started and kind of the inception and just blossoming like from like your time playing sports and then at Salisbury and then kind of bouncing around and that Georgetown Salisbury tree. Like I know I started it, but it's crazy to see some of the other people kind of go that direction and it turned into almost like a feeder school for it. So I'm happy
Yep.
that's still going. And there's a lot of great GAs that have come out of Salisbury too that have gone on to have great careers as well too. So it's a testament to that place and like what
hmm
Coach Nine has been able to do and push people out of it. So that's awesome. And I'm glad they actually split football up to have rookies because like 160 football players
Yep.
as a GA is
It's a lot.
ridiculous.
It's a lot for sure.
Hey, so when it comes to that stuff, like I know you already were going into your baseball career kind of really enjoying the weight room, that atmosphere and kind of being a gym rat. And now at college trying to figure out that realm of like which career path I want to do. And I know especially at Salisbury, like that is kind of laid out for you because you're playing sports, so you see everybody around you and you're kind of taking those opportunities on your own to go out and learn more. Like you always knew you wanted to be in baseball specifically, but like how important was it for you to continue to gain some experience like in the collegiate level, like at Parisi, and just gain a little bit more like time on the floor coaching before you felt like, or maybe not even felt like it, but were able to land a job in professional baseball because that's one sport, the one you want to work with, but it's a little bit different when you're working with everybody to kind of get to that one place.
hmm Yeah. So I can think back to all the internships I've had, even though I was a one sport strength coach for 5 years, the first real true 5 years of my career. And I can look back and look at each one of them and probably pick a few things I still use to this day from every sport that I worked with. Um, when I was early on, I knew that all I had to do was start coaching. There's a difference between being a good player and being a good coach. I don't necessarily think you have to be the best player in the world to understand what it means to be a good coach. So that was one thing that was ingrained in me early on was you just need to get out there and start coaching, whatever that looks like. You're going to figure it out as you go early on. And you know, you can have all these internships and, you know, get big time internships or whatever you want. But if you're not coaching, then that's not going to pay off in the future. So that's what I looked for when I was early on in college as an athlete and looking for any opportunity to get out there and coach was, are they going to let me actually coach athletes and learn at the same time? Because if I'm just going to stand around a weight room and clean up and just kind of be there, to me, that's a waste of my time because I'm not getting any better as a coach. So that's what Parisi did for me. That's what the University of Pittsburgh did for me. That's what my internship at Salisbury my senior year did for me was I spent all my time on the floor, out of the office, on the floor, coaching, talking with athletes, talking with other strength coaches and learning as much as I can. All that pays off when you land that job that you really want and you can look back and say, I have all this experience with all these different types of sports. And what that really does is it gives you experience with different types of people. Because when you get into coaching, one of the most important things and important lessons that you're going to learn is connecting with people. And no matter what sport you're working with, if you have a strong ability to connect with people, you have a great chance to be successful. And I think that's what going and doing all those internships with different sports helped me when I got to being a baseball strength coach, is being able to understand different personalities, work with different leadership, and work with different people. So it pays off for sure. And I'm thankful for doing those experiences that weren't baseball. My Georgetown internship for the first 2 to 3 months of it was strictly football. And that was after being a GA and knowing that I wanted to be a baseball strength coach. But did it really help me to then go and try to find an internship working with another baseball team? Maybe, but at the same time, I thought it was more valuable to go learn from a different strength coach, different perspectives, different athletes, different backgrounds. And that really helped me when I get to my own coaching, my own programming, my own systems and philosophies in professional baseball and now tactical.
No, that's awesome. It's definitely super helpful to kind of get that experience because, like you said, you're going to deal with so many different personalities and individuals when you get to or you hone in on like a specialty, whether it be a sport, or like maybe even in the private sector, like a type of training club or whoever you're working with. You start to see the tendencies and like kind of culture surrounding an individual sport or just location that you're at. But when you start getting to like professional baseball, like you're dealing with different nationalities, you're dealing with guys from everywhere, you're dealing with guys that have been in for like 15-year careers to rookies. And then even like once you start getting the tactical population, like it's the true melting pot of like the country.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people from every single background, like every single like generation and nationality, like different experience and then different experiences training too, because they might be really good at what their job specialty is, but they could be just dog shit at training or not take care of themselves at all. So
Mm-hmm.
you take all those personality traits and then on top of that you have different training ages and like you better have a lot of experiences in order to kind of deal with that and quickly manage training during a short amount of time. And as we kind of know, when you get to any of those higher levels, like time is like one of the biggest commodities and
Mm-hmm.
you're very sparse for it. So you better know what you're doing and relay that information fast, quick, and in a hurry. Sometimes too, like tactical population, like they're not required really to come in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yep,
have other pressing things that are on their mind that you need to be efficient with what you're doing. So,
for sure. And the tactical realm is extremely different from sports, but there's also a ton of similarities. When I was getting into this, I'm able to draw a lot of things from working with athletes that I do now. And some of the things you mentioned, different age groups, different backgrounds, nationalities, training ages. I go from being in a weight room with an 18-year-old from the Dominican Republic that doesn't speak a lot of English in a zero training age to the 40-year-old who has more experience in professional baseball than I do and has been around the game a lot longer. Those are two extremely different people that you need to figure out how to work with and get better at the same time. And then you get to tactical and you get a lot of the same thing. You get somebody who is, fresh out of some academy and doesn't have a high training age or a good knowledge. And then you got to also work with somebody who's a 20-year veteran of whatever realm that they're working in. And you're also got to figure out how to relate to that person. So those skills you learn working with athletes, even though tactical is different, you're still going to lean on those all the time.
definitely. Hey, before I know we'll touch on a little bit more of like that transition to the tactical setting because it's interesting to kind of see like you've got private sector experience, you've got collegiate experience, you've got professional baseball experience, and now switching towards like the military and tactical setting and that tactical athlete, like obviously the broad experience and having those skill sets is helpful for that. I know we'll kind of touch on what that transition looked like for you, but I wanted to also ask like the differences when you're looking at that professional baseball mindset too. Like you worked your way up from collegiate, and then there's so many different like feeder systems within a professional baseball, minor league baseball organization, and you kind of work your way up to it. I know we don't have to get into like all the different levels and like all the different changes, which I'm sure it's super fluid from the 5 years that you were with the Blue Jays. But do you see like any kind of like glaring differences between those levels, whether it be like the resources that are provided or the type of training or the type of athlete that you kind of work with that you can kind of clearly see a delineation between those levels before you get to AAA and then and to that major league level?
For sure. So at the lower level, there is a bit of similarity to kind of the college setting. When you're at the lower levels, you can have a little bit more structure. Hey, lift is at this time, warm up, your toes are on the line at this time, things like that. It's a little bit more structured. You're still in the development phase. You're working with a lot of young athletes. So there's so much physical development to be had. As you move up in levels, there's a little bit less and less of that stuff. They have a little bit more freedom. They're more experienced. A lot of the times, when you get up into AAA, there's a lot of people who already have major league experience and are working their way back. They're in a routine that they know works for them. That's where you come in. And as opposed to being that strength coach that's based on physical development in those lower levels, now you're in a little bit more of a supporting role with those older athletes. You're there to fill in the gaps and be a resource for them to figure out what are small tweaks here and there that I can help with your routine, your lifting, your conditioning that are going to help get you back to the big leagues. Because at that level, it's no longer here's what training looks like, or here's what a trap bar deadlift is. You get a ton of that at the lower levels. At the higher levels, it's a lot more in that supporting role, which is a really fun role to be in because you can learn a lot from those guys with major league experiences. I talk to them all the time, just as if they were another strength coach to learn about what routines worked for them. When you got to the big leagues, what was working? What do you feel is the most bang for your buck? The gameplay is also different. At the lower levels, you might get a little bit more rest. At the upper levels, you're playing. If you're a pitcher, you might be required to pitch back-to-back days. Generally, that doesn't happen as much in the lower levels. So again, somebody pitches in the lower levels, you have a little bit more time to develop them. In the upper level, someone's going to pitch, and you got to figure out how to get them ready to pitch again the very next day. So the demands are very different from level to level as you work your way up and down.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. Like it seems obvious, like now that you kind of like state it like that, but obviously being in there, surrounded by it for that many years, and then being able to kind of make your way up those levels yourself, almost like as in a coaching career, as the players are trying to make their way up through the ranks as well. Like it's interesting, and I like that's how professional baseball does it too. Like it makes it very similar to what they do in some of the European countries and like Australia when it comes to like coaching career paths too, like where you have to work your way up through the course
Mm-hmm.
of it to kind of gain more experience until because everybody thinks they can work with like the highest level athletes, but then you realize that you're doing maybe less of the coaching that people think they're doing. Like we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the developmental coaching where like, hey, this is this movement, this is how you execute it, this is how you like progressively overlay it, all those things to where you get to a professional level and even higher, like you said, you're in a supporting role, but when you get even higher, those guys are just as well equipped to write their own programs and everything. Just as a coach, you're more of a consultant and you're just giving an unbiased opinion from
Mm-hmm.
someone that isn't doing what they're doing. And
Yep.
yeah, you're still the subject matter expert, but at the end of the day, that athlete knows their body better than you, and they've had probably tons of coaches and a lot of experience and training under their belt that it's really more of a conversation between the two of you to come to the best program and solution that fits them with you just being the expert that's kind of weighing in. They still have to agree to it. That's the crazy
Mm-hmm.
thing at the professional level. Like they can tell you to just fuck off pretty
Yeah.
quickly if they really
Yeah,
want
they
to.
sure can. They sure can. Yep. And honestly, you kind of want it that way, like we're talking about, where when they get to the upper levels, they have a little bit more autonomy because that's a good sign for your homegrown guys that you have a good strength and conditioning program in your organization. Because when they start at the lower levels and make their way up, they get up there and they have a great idea of what training is, knowing what their body responds well to and knowing what their body responds bad to. I think that's a great sign of a good program. And a lot of the times, the mindset for me in AAA was, how can I keep you playing 6 months from now, as opposed to where can I get your trap bar deadlift 5 rep max 6 months from now? And it may be by doing some heavy strength work along the season, and it may be by just managing your fatigue levels. Some guys at the upper levels barely like to touch a weight in season. Some don't like to touch a weight at all. But there's ways you can figure out how to help them in just their fatigue management and keeping them fresh and on the field. And that's all they need. Some guys are just gifted and they're that good and they don't know why. And you don't always have to figure out why. You just have to keep them the way they are and make sure they're ready to play.
Oh yeah. And that is crazy too to think. I'm sure the service members, like who you're working with, like your tactical athletes in that population that you're working with now, you're probably getting a modge podge of all these different like levels that you had with the professional baseball players, like
Mm-hmm.
beginning, intermediate, advanced levels. And like you might be talking to someone at one rack that needs to be like taught where the clips are and like
Mm-hmm.
that 5 pound plates are 5 pounds or what the bar weighs. And then you turn around, the next person you have is asking you questions about accommodating resistance and like
Mm-hmm.
and bar speed. And it's
Yep.
just you have to kind of have so many tools in your toolbox to like be able to switch the conversation and tailor it to who you're working with. Um,
For sure.
and that kind of brings up one point that I always want to ask with, especially guys that have gone to Salisbury, because I get a bunch of them. But other people that are at universities or careers where they were athletes and then transitioned to coach, because it's a very interesting and weird kind of transition. So, what about that, like, made you kind of prepared for it, or what do you wish you might have done a little bit differently? Because, like I said, you went from player and teammate on baseball to being their strength coach. And it's not, I don't know if it's just a flip of the switch. You finish the season, like hopefully like at Appleton, like getting ready for
Mm-hmm.
World Series, like around that May period, like June, July going in. And then when they come back in August, like you're their coach and you just
Yeah.
graduated. So how was that transition, and like how receptive were the guys, and where did you kind of like draw the line to be the coach versus like be the teammate that you were a couple
Mm-hmm.
months ago?
Yeah, it's hard for sure because those dudes that you're now standing in front of were your best friends that you hung out with, you spent an unbelievable amount of time with, and they know a lot about you and who you are as a person. So it can be challenging for sure. I didn't find it something that was too much for me to handle right off the bat. Being someone that loved the weight room and liked to think that I worked very hard and carried myself in a respectful way, that when I was their coach, they already knew who I was. They knew what I stood for and the standards and expectations that I held myself to, that I was then going to ask them to be held to. Um, I was the captain of the team my senior year, so I was already kind of in a leadership role with the guys I was playing with. So then I'm just, instead of standing with them, I'm just flipped around talking with them. And so I think that transition made it very easy to gain their trust and have buy-in and ask them to do those things that are extremely hard because they've seen me go through it with them. So it was huge, and I think it actually helped me a lot more so than hurt me.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you're already kind of almost like bred for the position when you're already a workhorse, and like your work ethic and just the things that you do speak louder than you actually opening your mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
then being made a captain and like earning that honor like in your senior year, you're already having those conversations that you are before. It's just you're talking from a lens of being on the field and like preparing teammates to like you're a little bit more removed in a sense because you're in maybe a higher role or just away from the team in some aspect, but you're still having that same conversation. You still have the same standards, like you said, and have the same goals in mind. You just don't get to lace it up. Like you have to
Hmm.
prepare them to do it, which is even more so like just a different mind shift for
Yeah.
you. But like you said, I think it makes it a lot easier when like you didn't sham your way through the first 4 years just to
Hmm.
come in and like flip the switch and say, hey, this is what you guys are going to do. Because
Yep.
there's no way they would have listened to you
No.
if you were that shitbag at the end of the bench, just kind of going through the
Exactly.
motions.
Exactly. Yep. And that's why I'm very thankful for the opportunity to get to do that, because that was being a GA there at Salisbury was some of the most fun I've had. Just being in there with the guys for an extra 2 years. I wanted it like I was still a player, just as bad as they did. So I'm pushing them, and they're still pushing me, and it was a fantastic time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because you do get to kind of extend it and still be a part of the team. And it's a tough transition that I respect everybody that's had to go through that. And then like coaches that it's always a double-edged sword because like, do you leave and be a GA somewhere else? Do you stay? And like
Hmm.
knowing that all the coaching experience that you can get and the teams you can work with, and you never know which way is going to work out. Like I'm thankful that like Matt allowed people to stay
Hmm.
and like because he wants the best coaches there, but it is a very hard transition to like be with that sport, stay with that sport, and take on that responsibility of having a new role versus it's a big risk that that person is just going to get carried away and like treat them
Hmm.
like friends. So,
Yep.
I mean, it worked out in your favor and you really took advantage of it and you were able to kind of continue coaching and like start your career off on the right foot like
Hmm.
from there and then take it where it is now. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah. But all the respect to Matt for giving me that opportunity too. And he asked me a lot of questions about that. You were an athlete here at Salisbury. You interned under me for your spring semester, your senior year, and now you want to come back. Why should I keep you here, or why should I not send you somewhere else where I think you might get a better opportunity? And for me, it wasn't just because I had the opportunity to work with baseball and stay there. I was an intern under him, so I know what it meant to be a strength coach there, and I knew how much experience I was going to get. And that's what made the decision for me that even though I've been here for a while, if I'm going to start my career, this is the spot, because I know that I'm going to get a ton of time on the floor. Matt's going to give me a long leash, probably longer than he should have, and he's going to let me just do my thing. And that is I give so much credit to him for allowing his GAs to do what they do, because you learn so much in those first 2 years just being on your feet. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have come out of that coaching tree is pretty the branches extend out pretty far. I don't know what it looks like now because I just feel like I've been so far removed, but the ones pretty close to me and then like a couple years before me that I got to kind of shadow and then the ones after me that were my athletes that ended up like you started coaching like I know those ones pretty well. So I'm hoping that it's still kind of carried out and we'll kind of
hmm.
see. We'll have to start putting those kind of pinpoint together and see where everybody is.
Yeah,
But we've had so many guys on the show that have done that and kind of gone through that path that it seems like it's still going in the right direction. So
yep,
that's
for sure.
awesome.
I got to see Matt recently and talk with him about some stuff, and met some of his GAs, and they're still rolling. One of the guys I met was a former football player, uh, turned strength GA, and now he's a strength coach in college. So they're still rolling them out.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and like touch on what was the switch like for you? Because like what kind of attracted you or made you want to take that leap towards like the tactical space after wanting to start and be in the career of baseball? Like you took it pretty far and you were at a lot of stops and then made your way through an organization for 5 years, going all the way up to AAA and like basically knocking on the door. Like, what was the shift for you, and like how has it been being almost a full year into this new role?
It was a really smooth transition, and I think it's because of the reasons why I want to do the things that I want to do with my career. When it came to baseball, that was a no-brainer. Baseball is the reason I am who I am today. So getting to be a strength coach and work with baseball, no-brainer. Get back to the sport. Tactical is something I've had my eye on for a while as well, and watch this field grow into what it is now because, I have former military members in my family, current and former police officers. One of my good friends from college is a firefighter. So being surrounded by the population, I also got to look at it and say, I have another opportunity to give back to a population that has given a ton to me throughout my life. That's something I want to do. Um, gave everything, every ounce of energy I had to the sport of baseball and my job with the Blue Jays, and I had an absolute blast. And I feel fortunate to look back and say that those 5 years were a ton of fun. I learned a lot, and it was a fantastic opportunity. And I just look at this as another experience for me to give back to a population that deserves it and is probably long overdue, getting to have these resources. So when this opportunity came available, it was great timing, and it just made sense. And so I made the jump, and I'm glad I did. I have a ton of fun with my job now. I love it. I love working with this population. And sometimes you hear strength coaches that get into tactical and they think they're just going to be the 9 to 5 strength coach. They don't want to work the 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week now. So I'm just going to jump into tactical and work 8 hours a day. It's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. But that's not the reason you get into this population, in my opinion. I think that you gotta have a real reason, or else you're going to get in here and be very surprised at what the day to day is like. So for me, I knew that those reasons were there, and it's just made it smooth. And I'm extremely grateful to be able to do this every day and work with the people that I get to work for.
No, it's great to have like that mentality and kind of driving factor and motivation of like why you want to do it. And you want more people in that in any profession they're kind of going into and want to be able to give back and take pride in what their job is. And it means a little bit more when you go into a tactical setting like that too, and you're working with those athletes that are putting their lives on the line, like their job is inherently dangerous or in harm's way overseas or even like homegrown too. Like it makes you want to really put more into that program and make sure that they're fully prepared so that they can go home to their families and
Hmm.
they can have a good, healthy like lifestyle as well, like in and out of the uniform, which is a lot of the stuff that we would do with athletes. But at the end of the day, like with like collegiate athletes, professional athletes, like it's a job and it's a sport. Like this is a career and a livelihood, and like their lives are on the line. Their family,
Hmm.
like are their future is impacted by what they do in their job, and ultimately like the longevity and how long they're able to stay in that career and how well they are prepared for their job is
Hmm.
predetermined on a lot of those like characteristics they get from training, like physical and non-physical. So it's a big task, and it's important to
Hmm.
have more people like you and just coaches and physical therapists, athletic trainers, mental health performances, dietitians, all those positions need to be in the tactical realm and available as resources for everybody.
For sure. And you look at some of the issues that are arising in the tactical population versus sport, and not to say that they're completely separate problems, but you're in sport and you're molding young men and women, and you're trying to make them be great athletes and learn things that they can use when their athlete career is over. Now you look at the tactical population, and you're working in a population where the rates of heart attack and suicide are skyrocketing. And you have that in your mind of, I just want to play a small role in reversing that trend and making the long-term livelihood of these people every day better. And there's real meaning behind that, just like there is real meaning in sport of developing young athletes into grown men and grown women. So I think there's huge meaning behind both of them, and if those are the reasons why you're doing what you do, like you're gonna enjoy your job and make an impact on anybody you come across.
Yeah, it's a great point too. Like the small things, even those like interactions, or it's an individual that is failing a PT test or is just having a hard time like on the job, and this is an escape for them, or it's just conversations that they have that they don't really have to talk about their job or anything like that. Those little small interactions or like habits that they create that are positive can make a lasting impression on them and can kind of change the trajectory of their career and their life and what they do the next day. And their jobs are extremely stressful, and it
Hmm.
becomes that more important that you have people in that coaching realm that are working with them know how to like accurately and like properly apply different stress to them to get them to bend but not break, and make sure
Hmm.
that it's going to build them up and it's not just going to tear them down where they can't do their job, or for some of them not like just not come back to training because
Hmm.
it in a lot of senses it's voluntary, and it's there could be self-imposed like physical training. They just choose not to come to you, so you have to,
Hmm.
in the same way that a private sector, you need to get them to come back for more a lot of times because there's a lot of ways to get out of PT.
Yep, for sure. And it's all about that environment you create too, because I think the tactical realm of human performance, there's been some level of it, in the tactical field for a good bit now, but it's also, in my opinion, still very new of what human performance really means to these populations. And it's not only new for us, it's new for them that they can go to work and have a strength coach there for them. Then a lot of the times they just come and they're just like, I don't really know like how to use you as a resource, but I want your help, and it's just you create that welcoming environment for them to come ask for help and just be a resource. And that's been one of the biggest things is in tactical that's meant a lot to some people is just being available and being a resource. I'm not coming in saying I have all the answers. You need to listen to me and you're going to do this and you're going to pass your PT test. I'm just here as a resource to help you with whatever it needs that you think you need help with. And we're probably going to get stronger along the way, of course. But those are the things that I think mean the most right now. Just getting started in this field is being available, being a resource for whatever they need.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too, because like if anybody hasn't worked with that population or understand like kind of those nuances and how that happens, like a lot of them, no matter what level you want to talk with, you can, I don't care if you go up into some of these, I mean, tier one units aside, and like some of those ones where like special forces and like SOCOM level and things, like there's still people that are in supporting roles that really don't understand physical training or haven't been exposed to this type of training environment or resources and coaches, that even they don't really understand. But like anybody in a military population, like people that don't understand or civilians that don't have family members or really know what the day to day looks like, thinks that a lot of them think that like anybody in the military is just a physical specimen and a freak and
Hmm.
like knows how to train, knows how to take care of themselves, is kind of robotic and just follows rules. But that's not the case like
Yeah.
across the board. And like you said, being welcoming, being um, kind of authentic, having just resources available so that they want to come to you and they're aware that you're even accessible. Like
Hmm.
the amount of times some of my like service members have come up to me and talked and was like, "Hey, am I allowed to be here?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, who do you work with?" And then like I'll point them either in the right direction or I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm a resource." And they're like, "Oh man, this is cool.
Yeah.
I've been at so and so, or I've been at these like different areas, or I was working with this group before. I didn't even know that we had this."
Hmm.
And it's great to see that it's starting to like throughout the DoD and the military and different like contracting resources and GS positions are starting to pop up for this human performance like training. And it's just in its infancy. So we're still trying to like define what it is and like what our capabilities are and push that resource out so it's meaningful and it's lasting so that we can continue to have a lasting impact
Hmm.
on these service members for their career, whether still in uniform or once they retire.
Yeah, for sure. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say that same thing. They come and they're just like, how long have you guys been here? I didn't even know you guys were a thing. Like, what is this? And we're like, man, we got strength coaches, PTs, dietitians, you got all these resources. Like, figure out what you want, and we got it for you.
Crazy. Yeah, it's we'll see. It's tactical training is picking up a lot more, just the same as
Hmm.
high school and
Hmm.
a lot of different places. And it'll be interesting to see like the trickle down effect from collegiate sports kind of shifting and then a more precedence on guys going out and doing their own thing, going into the
Hmm.
private sector, high school starting to pop up. So I more coaches and more different avenues and putting a precedence on performance and physical development and training like I don't think is a bad thing. And also makes our jobs a little bit better too because it's more competitive than it was in the initial days when everybody's
Yep.
fighting for the same positions and someone's willing to do
Hmm.
it for less.
Yep, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, do you kind of shifting a little bit more too. Like, let's take it back to like your training a little bit. Like, you've gone through a lot of different changes. Like, we all kind of know as a coach, a lot of time the atmosphere and who you're around can kind of change what type of training you're doing. You made a big shift, obviously, going from like playing in college,
Hmm.
and then obviously having me. You had Messina, I'm sure,
Hmm.
and then who'd you have after that?
Alex Horrelbogen was my next guy for
Okay,
my
so
junior and senior year.
I've heard him too, and
Hmm.
so you've had a lot of like coaches within your career, and then you were working with them. What's your training kind of look like now that your playing days are over? Like not competing in anything, or are you competing? Or are you looking forward to something? Like what's it look like nowadays?
Yeah. So nowadays, my goal right now is just to get as big as possible. I've gone through so many different phases of like, I really want to get this lift as strong as I can. I want to get this lift as strong as I can. So I really focus on those things. Right when I stopped playing, um, I started getting into Olympic lifting a lot. I started really diving into like cal strength and the early days of Olympic weightlifting, and that was a lot of fun. Never competed in it, but just dove into it a lot and started doing a bunch of Olympic weightlifting. That was fun. And then shifted in some other different styles. And then right now I'm just traditional upper lower splits, high volume, just trying to put on as much size as I possibly can, which is a lot of fun because there's a lot of freedom in my diet too to eat a lot. So that's where I'm at now. And also however much weight I can put on my bench never hurts anything. So
It's a sometimes that's an easy kind of conversation starter when it comes to any military personnel. It's like, well, I mean, I can put up this, and it's like, all right, so at
hmm.
least conversation starter. You could see where it takes you from that, even if it's kind of vague in the beginning. Like, it's a good way to kind of keep them coming back for more, and that's
Hmm.
that's an interesting thing because like we said, you want to be a resource for the tactical population. You want to kind of prepare them for their job, but at the same time, like you want them to really enjoy training and you want them to be a part of it and make it part of like their daily routine and their lives. So inevitably, like their program isn't going to be as rigid as it was when you were working with the Blue Jays and like you're getting ready for a
Hmm.
game, you're getting ready to play this position. College, same thing with whatever sport their choice is. Now you kind of have to program for the job, but also for the tendencies, maybe injuries and things that that service member enjoys so that they continue to want to train.
Yep.
So the buy-in process must have been super easy with the baseball guys, just having a baseball background.
Hmm.
What's kind of like that conversation starter, like you saying, like trying to get your bench up? Like, how do you kind of get service members to kind of buy into the program, um, being as a coach and then continuing to train yourself?
So the buy-in, I think one thing we do what I think extremely well at O2X is we put a huge emphasis on education. So we don't only want to train you and get you better, and whether that's you're training for a PT test or PT test and beyond, um, operational readiness, whatever it may be, we also put a huge emphasis on education. So along the way through our coaching, we're also going to try to teach you as much as we possibly can about training, and if we're not around, how you can structure your own training and maybe build your own style of programming. Because in this setting, we're not always going to have the same people all the time. So eventually, someone who you're training with, you might not train for a long time, and you hope that you have taught them enough through the training, through your conversation, that they can now handle things on their own at the same time. So I think a lot of my conversation starters come down to what are you training for? What are your goals? And, you know, there can be some anxiety around the PT tests that we do because, some people may not have taken the best care of themselves and they're nervous of whether they can pass it or not. But a lot of the times I want them to understand that I want the byproduct of my training to be that you can pass the PT test, but also that you're a savage at your job. That you're not just coming to see me because, oh, if I got to pass some test, you're gonna pass your test, but you're also going to be a savage out there. So, I think a lot of it comes down to me figuring out what drives them, what do they enjoy, and what's gonna, like you said, what's gonna keep them coming back. I don't want to. I tell people all the time, I don't want to write you a program that you're not going to do. So I want to know, what do you like to do? What do you hate? What are your non-negotiables? And then I'm going to tell you the same thing. Here's my programming style. Here's what I think can help you. Um, and and I want you to keep coming back. So it's just those conversations of getting to know the person more, what really drives them, that I think builds the foundation for that long-term relationship.
So when you talk about those things and like trying to get a better understanding of like that service member, that athlete, that tactical athlete that's coming in, trying to understand maybe what their training history looks like, what they don't like, what maybe goals or things that they have in mind coming up, whether it be a PT test or something else they've set aside, like as a physical training goal or to lean out or gain muscle mass. Like, is this kind of individual consults that you're kind of working with, or are you kind of working with multiple people that are kind of in the same boat that have a goal in mind so that you're not just always creating these individualized programs where you might only have a touch point for a couple weeks and then you don't see that member for months because that becomes difficult to have that communication when they have so many other obligations going on.
For sure. And I kind of do a mixture of everything in terms of who I'm working with. So I have some group training where I'm training a group of people that could be anywhere between 6 and 15 at a time, which is, I really enjoy that because that gets me back into like my college style days where I get to train a group of people. But then there also is a lot of one-on-one consults and coaching. And the consults, they can range a whole lot of things. It can be, I want to come see you one on one all like 4 days a week and train. It could be, hey, need help with getting my bench press up. How can I do that? It could be something as small as that. Or sometimes people come to us with their own program that they're getting from somewhere else. And they just want to know, hey, is this going to work? Or can you fill in the gaps? Is there anything I'm missing? So again, coming back to being that resource for them, we'll help them out with whatever they need. So there's group training, there's one-on-one training, there's education, and then like I said, whatever they need of, I have my own program, but I want some help here. It ranges everything. We try to cover as much ground as we possibly can with everybody.
No, that's great to have to kind of cover all your bases with everything because like again, we talked about some people just don't understand it's a resource. And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot kind of being in my new role is a lot of people, some of them have programs and some of them have things that they inherently like to do, and they might have just been running the same 12-week program for the last
Hmm.
8 years and they just enjoy it, or they're not seeing
Hmm.
results, or they think they're seeing results, or they don't really care to change. But as a resource, I'm trying to get more of and more of them to at least bring that program in so that, like you said, we can fill those gaps and we can kind of be an objective eye to say, hey, is this your outcome? Is this what you're trying to actually like obtain from this? Is the program getting the results that you think it's intended to do?
Hmm.
How can we kind of shift gears? Like, hey, listen, it's your program, but would you think that we can maybe add this in, subtract this in? Hey, let's just try it out for a couple weeks and see what you think. And then you
Hmm.
come back in a month and give me your feedback. Or if you feel like it's not working, change it, but I want to see you in a month. And that's
Hmm.
that's the thing I think I wonder if you're dealing with the same thing a lot of times is just fighting for a little bit of that consistency or follow through. Because if you don't have someone that is already intrinsically motivated or accustomed to coming in, like we would used to see in our collegiate population, professional population, where they're coming in, this is their touch point. There might be times where you don't see someone for
Hmm.
months at a time, whether it be TDY, getting PCS, like different assignments and schoolings, or it's just neglect or just
Hmm.
forgetting to come and touch in with base with you. So how do
Yeah.
you reach out, or you just kind of have to wait and see what happens from there? Because it's in their hands.
Yeah, for sure. And you're dealing with a lot of people now that training isn't in the weight room isn't necessarily always a part of their job. Where when you're working in sports, like you can make a case that it's your job to train and get better. Now it's not necessary. It's a little bit tougher to make that argument that this is part of your job to come see me and train. So I try to keep up as much constant communication as possible. Always encourage the consistency to come see me. And I tell everybody, if you're not able to come see me, I'll write you a program to the best of my ability to get the same results as if I was coaching you there one on one. But that consistency is what matters the most. And you do run into those sometimes where, it's radio silence for a while. You don't hear from somebody. And they're just off working, doing their thing. And then you see them again. It's like, hey, how's that program going? And they're like, so I did day one and then I'm thinking about restarting it next week, and you're just like, okay, sounds good. Restart it. Let me know how it is. Um, but those are just, conversations and relationships. And I just try to stay on them and ask them questions about the program, try to encourage them to, send updates or questions, concerns, how things are going, send your weights over of what you're doing, and just stay in constant communication to keep that consistency.
Yeah, those check-ins seem pretty crucial, and like I think that's another reason why like the tactical population is not an entry-level job, because that consistency and then those quick conversations and understanding different people's tendencies and their experience to like how different everything is. You
Hmm.
can't put someone who doesn't have those reps in those roles and see someone who's probably anywhere between like 2 years to 20 years older than them and
Hmm.
be able to quickly build that buy-in and know
For
what you're
sure.
talking about and be kind of that subject matter expert when you see someone that comes in for 30 minutes once every 3 months.
Hmm.
It's not happening. But for you, you can kind of like see it. You can watch in the corner of your eye, like their technique and how they're doing stuff. And you can already kind of guess what their programming looks like. You know what they're deficient in. You know what probably their strengths are, and you can probably guess a little bit of the questions they might have. before they come up to you because you have a coaching eye from all those reps when it
Hmm.
comes to that population. So
Yep.
I guess when it comes to like that education point, is that one of the points in time where maybe you're taking a little bit more of a shotgun approach and pushing it out to more of the masses? Because that information is probably useful for everybody. And yeah, there are specific things that might be unique to an individual, but the same as like we've always addressed athletes like in a group setting, your one quote unquote dumb question is probably being thought of by five, six, seven more of your teammates. So
Hmm.
by you answering that dumb question or like asking it and me answering it, I probably just clarified a lot of things for everybody else. So it probably doesn't hurt for you to push out that same information. Have you found like that is beneficial or found a good way to kind of push information out to the masses with the people you're working with?
Yeah, we're trying to do our best to be around different groups of people as much as possible. And we're toying with some ideas right now of if a group has training or there's a group of people in our building just hanging out, we're going to go socialize, for lack of a better term, and just be around and talk about whatever they want to talk about. Sit down and say, what do you guys need from us? What can we help you with? Today, we're going to talk about how to build a workout when you only have 20 minutes, or we're going to talk about good squat technique today, or here's proper fueling for before lift. We're going to take as many opportunities as possible to get out in front of people and be around different groups and just talk and socialize what we do and try to educate in small tidbits because this is a long game that we're playing. And if we try to come on too strong and give them a ton of information all at once, just like the athletes will do, they're going to forget so much of that right away. So that's why we're doing our best to spread our staff out and get in front of as many different people as possible and just build the relationships and talk about different topics in small groups here and there. So that's been really fun to do. Because I love that stuff. I love talking strength and conditioning and talking shop. And it's also an opportunity to get to meet more people and spread the program out. And I take that opportunity as well to ask them about their jobs. And this is our version of understanding the demands of the sport when you're working in athletics is understanding the demands of their job. So as much as we go to educate them on what we do, I want to go and ask questions and have them educate us on what it's really like doing their job so that we can understand better, program better, and maybe change some things that might work better for their style.
Yeah, that's great to kind of go out and see exactly what they're doing and what their job entails because it's one of those things that you're not going to gain the full picture because you're not in it and you didn't
Hmm.
go through all the training to get to that process, but there's still a ton of takeaway that you can have and gain from just observing, asking the right questions, like gaining feedback, seeing what they want to know, and then seeing how they interact and do in their own training environment, in that atmosphere, because that allows you to kind of put together a better program and get a better like mental image of what you need to tweak and what might be the direction the program needs to go in. So
Hmm.
all important information. And like you said too, like there's always an information overload when it comes to athletes, that comes to the tactical population. Everybody's the same, but it's hard to find time to like sneak in that educational stuff when you're already having to like try to get people to coax to come over to the weight room.
Hmm.
So what better way than to really meet them where they're at and like go to
Hmm.
their spot. You there's so much time in the day where they're kicked back and waiting for
Hmm.
something to happen. And it's a hurry up and wait kind of game that, hey, just go shoot the shit with them. Like
Yeah, exactly.
bring
Hmm.
lunch, go like flyers and like
Yeah.
email blasts and stuff like only
Yep.
goes so far. You gotta sit down and really just kind of be one of the guys
Hmm.
and see what they have to say because I've found that that's the best way to spark conversation and get people more interested and see what they really want to know about. And they retain it a lot better than an easy drag this email to the
Hmm.
trash.
Yep, exactly. Yep, emails get buried, but if we can have those conversations in person, hopefully they remember those small things, and it goes a long way for these tactical groups as well, for you to just be willing to understand where they're coming from and their backgrounds and the things that they deal with. They really appreciate you just saying, "Hey, can you tell me about what you guys are working on right now, or educate me a little bit on what your daily life is like, and show that you care and you want to understand so you can better help them." It just like it goes a long way with them.
That's awesome, man. Hey, well, like any good training session, we got to end the show with a finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions, and maybe overtime at the end. So you can
Hit me,
go as quick as you want, or feel free to make them long if you got to expand on the questions. But you ready?
hit me.
All right, here we go. First one, biggest influence in the strength conditioning profession.
Oh, gotta be Matt Nine, no doubt. Gave me my first opportunity, and it's continued to be a huge resource for me.
All right, well, I got question 1A too. Favorite baseball player of all time.
Oh man, probably Pudge Rodriguez. I was a catcher, and so I looked up to him when I was a little kid, and a fantastic memory for me was watching him finally play for the Nationals and watching him catch Steven Strasburg's debut. I was just such a fanboy at that time. So Pudge Rodriguez for sure.
There you go. Hey, so when you're not coaching, you're not training, you're outside the kind of the weight room, what are some of those hobbies that kind of recharge you or kind of get you reinvigorated?
So I big music fan. I love listening to all types of music. Bit of a metalhead myself, and I play the drums. Played in band back when I was in high school or middle school. So still like to play the drums to this day. I don't have my drums with me now because I live in an apartment. I'd probably get evicted on the first day I started playing. But that's my big time hobby. I love music and playing the drums.
Nice. Well, hey, we'll skip ahead to one and then I'll come back around to the third one. But since you already kind of alluded to the music, if you're setting up like your best training day and you get to control the speakers, like what band, like what's the best PR song, and then when the training session's over, like what's your favorite post-training meal look like?
So band, man, I'm probably gonna put on some Slipknot. Um, that is my go-to if I'm training and I'm blasting music in the weight room. It's a ton of Slipknot, Avenged Sevenfold, Architects, a lot of heavy stuff like that. But I'm going Slipknot, and probably song might be one called Solway Firth. It's one of the best metal songs, in my opinion, out there. So I'm throwing that on when I'm PRing. And then afterwards, I'm crushing chicken parmesan, one of my all-time favorite meals. So I'm hammering that afterwards.
There we go. All right, so if you've given any thought, if you haven't, this will be a tricky one, but if you weren't coaching, what do you think you would be doing right now if you
Mm.
had to change career paths?
Oh, if I wasn't coaching, I honestly think that I probably would have gone down the music route and done something with music. I loved playing music, and I just chose sports at one point in my life and ran with that. But I think if I wasn't coaching, I'd be doing something with music, whether that's still playing or recording or music studio, something like that. I think it would definitely be something with music.
All right, not a bad choice. All right, so last one I got for you for overtime. Like in your opinion, what's the most important attribute of a successful coach And then if they're different, what's the most important aspect of a successful athlete?
I think to be a successful coach, you need to be the most adaptable person in the room. The amount of times that your plan gets crumbled up and thrown out as a strength conditioning coach is going to be more than the amount of times that the plan that you wanted to happen actually happens. So, in my opinion, that is absolutely number one as a strength coach. As an athlete, probably that would be a toss up between two things. One is being coachable, and listening to the coaches that are around you. Two would be being a good teammate. One thing that one of my college coaches preached almost every single day was being a good teammate. And I think that would be up there with being coachable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more too. And I feel like being a good teammate, you are coachable too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because what what's more humbling of a thing to do than listen to a peer, listen to someone that may or may not be better than you, may or may not be in the position you want to be, may or may not be older or younger than you. Like it's such a humbling thing to take advice from someone that is on the same level as you
Mm-hmm.
or beneath, like in some way,
Yep,
quote unquote, like beneath you.
for sure.
So
For sure. I got the opportunity a couple years ago to go with some other staff members and players from the Blue Jays out to the University of Health and Performance in Arkansas. And we spent some time with them just ingrained and learning different things. And there were different themes that we were going through. And one of them that they preached was make it easy on your teammate. And that has stuck with me day in and day out since those 3, 4 days that I was out there. Was every day I'm trying to make it easy on my teammates around me.
that's a great thing to kind of like highlight. And it's the same when it comes to like assistants. Like we've always said, like make the head guy's job easier. Like
Mm-hmm.
take work off someone's plate, like have your guys back. Like that's a great way to put it. Like just make it easier for your teammates and kind of bear some of that load. So it's a great thing to do, and it applies to coaches, it applies to everybody, but definitely applies to teammates. So that's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. For anybody that's got any follow-up questions, want to kind of follow along your path and like what you've got going on your road to getting huge and setting some PRs for yourself too, where can they get a hold of you?
Probably easiest way to get a hold of me would be my work email. That's just my name, Tommy.Labriola at O2X.com. And that's the letter O, number 2, letter X.com. Or you can hit me up on Instagram DMs. Again, just my name, Tommy_Labriola. Probably two easy ways to hit me up. And feel free to send anything you want. I'm an open book. Like I said, I love to talk strength conditioning. I'll talk to anybody about anything, and would love to learn from other resources out there too. So feel free to hit me up.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on. Like it's good to finally connect again and catch up and see what you got going on. And like I said in the beginning of the show, it's awesome to kind of see, for me personally, selfishly, it's awesome to see like former athletes like fall in love with coaching and then continue to coach and like get to a career path where now you're successful in it, been in it for a while and really continuing to thrive and just enjoy the job and give back to other athletes. So it's awesome to have you on the show today and reconnect, man. And I'm excited to see where your career continues to take you.
For sure. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, dude. We'll stay in touch. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.